In the beginning, when the world was still young and the Garden of Eden remained a distant memory, Adam and Eve had two sons. The first was named Cain, a sturdy and determined young man who became a tiller of the ground. He worked tirelessly, sowing seeds and nurturing the earth, coaxing life from its soil. His younger brother Abel was gentle and watchful, a shepherd who cared for flocks of sheep, guiding them through green pastures and protecting them from harm. The two brothers grew together, each with his own path, but both under the watchful gaze of their parents and the unseen eyes of God. They were taught to honor the Creator, to offer sacrifices in thanksgiving for His provisions. It was a time when humanity was learning how to worship, to acknowledge the divine and the blessings that came from His hand. One day, Cain and Abel each prepared an offering to present before the Lord. Cain brought forth the fruits of his labor, an offering of produce from the soil, grain, fruit, and vegetables, the harvest of his hands. He arranged his sacrifice neatly upon the altar, proud of his hard work and the abundance it had produced. Abel, too, came with his offering. He chose the firstborn of his flock, the choicest lambs, pure and unblemished. He prepared them with reverence, placing the fat portions on the altar, a fragrant offering of life given back to the giver of life. When the time came for God to regard the offerings, a mystery unfolded. The Lord looked with favor upon Abel and his sacrifice, accepting it as pleasing and righteous. Abel's heart had been pure, his offering given in faith and humility, and it was well received. But upon Cain and his offering, God did not look with favor. The reason was not fully spoken, but it was clear that something within Cain's heart had been amiss, perhaps pride, perhaps a lack of faith, or perhaps an offering given begrudgingly. The rejection stung Cain deeply. His heart burned with anger, and his face fell with sorrow and resentment. He could not understand why his offering had been rejected while his brothers had been accepted. Dark thoughts clouded his mind as jealousy took root within him. God, seeing Cain's turmoil, spoke to him gently. "Why are you angry? Why has your countenance fallen? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it." Despite the warning, Cain allowed bitterness to fester within his heart. He brooded over his brother's favor, nurturing envy until it consumed him. One day he spoke to Abel and said, "Let us go out into the field." Abel, unsuspecting of his brother's intentions, followed him. The two walked together, but Cain's heart had turned dark. In a sudden burst of violence, he rose against his brother and struck him down, spilling his blood upon the ground. The earth, which had yielded fruit under Cain's hand, now soaked in the innocent blood of his brother. When the deed was done, Cain stood over Abel's lifeless form, the weight of his actions pressing down upon him. His hands trembled, stained with blood, and his heart was heavy with the knowledge of his guilt. But he did not cry out in repentance. Instead, he tried to hide his sin. Then the voice of the Lord called out to Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" Cain, hardened by his crime, replied, "I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper?" But God, who sees all and knows all, said, "What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth." Cain's heart filled with fear and despair. He cried out, "My punishment is more than I can bear. Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me." But the Lord, even in his judgment, showed mercy. "Not so," he said. "If anyone kills Cain, he will suffer vengeance 7 times over." And the Lord put a mark on Cain so that no one who found him would kill him. Cain went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden. He became a wanderer, a man burdened by the weight of his sin, separated from the land that had once yielded its fruit to him. The earth itself bore witness to the tragedy. The ground that had been cursed when Adam sinned now carried the weight of a greater curse, the blood of innocence spilled in hatred. And so, the story of Cain and Abel became a solemn warning, a tale of jealousy, sin, and the devastating consequences of failing to master the evil that crouches at the door.